أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين، فإن كن نساء فوق 2 فلهن ثلثا ما ترك، وإن كانت واحدة فلها النصف، ولأبويه لكل واحد منهما السدس مما ترك إن كان له ولد، فإن لم يكن له ولد وورثه أبواه فلأمه الثلث، فإن كان له إخوة فلأمه السدس من بعد وصية يوصي بها أو دين. آباؤكم وأبناؤكم لا تدرون أيهم أقرب لكم نفعا، فريضة من الله، إن الله كان عليما حكيما. ولكم نصف ما ترك أزواجكم إن لم يكن لهن ولد، فإن كان لهن ولد فلكم الربع مما تركتم من بعد وصية يوصين بها أو دين، ولهن الربع مما تركتم إن لم يكن لكم ولد، فإن كان لكم ولد فلهن الثمن مما تركتم من بعد وصية توصون بها أو دين. وإن كان رجل يورث كلالة أو امرأة وله أخ أو أخت فلكل واحد منهما السدس، فإن كانوا أكثر من ذلك فهم شركاء في الثلث من بعد وصية يوصى بها أو دين غير مضار، وصية من الله، والله عليم حليم. تلك حدود الله، ومن يطع الله ورسوله يدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها، وذلك الفوز العظيم. ومن يعص الله ورسوله ويتعد حدوده يدخله نارا خالدا فيها وله عذاب مهين.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Zakat Foundation sisters for sharing your time with me this morning. I'm going to talk about a topic that is as least understood as zakah is. So for those who yelled the other day about zakah, I hope you've learned something. But this topic is even probably one of the other topics that very few people don't understand or appreciate the importance of it. So my name is Ismail Davids. I'm the CEO of National Zakat Foundation. But you'll see the branding today is actually under the branding is called Amid Inspirations, which is my personal branding. And the reason for that is if I talk about Islamic wills, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a financial person. So if I give you any advice today, it's a personal advice I'm giving you. Because people will go away and then they'll say, NZF said I must do this, so I'm removing the responsibility from the organizations because this matter is a serious matter and it has a lot of financial and personal implications. So that's why I just, when I'm talking in Okap space and the lawyer from Okap is there, she goes to me, Munir, you can't say that. I said, yes, I can. I'm giving people what really happened. I'm giving people practical advice. And then when with the financial guys, they go, you can't say that. You can't, in Australia, you can't give people financial advice. I said, but I'm not giving them financial advice. I'm just telling them what actually happens. All right? So this is from a real practical experience. And this is my personal brand. It stands for Amid Inspirations, means amongst, to be amongst the people. And if you look at the logo going the other way, it says Baina in Arabic, which means amongst. But actually, the name comes from Amid, which stands for Abu Munir Ismail Davids. So very few people actually catch that the acronym is actually my name. Okay, all right. Okay, so what I'm going to give you today is a lesson in how this works, but it's in honor of my beloved father. So why I can talk from a personal point of view, I actually use my dad's story and my story of how we came to where we are and what really happens when somebody dies. Right? So in 2021, my dad passed away suddenly in Ramadan, Allah grant him Jannah. So in honor of my dad, I actually give you the story of what happened and how this works. All right? Because 6 months before my dad passed away, we changed his wasiyah. And I'll explain the story and how that happened and why that happened and why that's a good thing to do if you need to do it. All right? We're going to talk about today the 5 reasons why you should have a will, the importance from the Quran, the ayat that Abdullah just recited. I'll play it again for you in the English meanings to give you an idea that this act of ibadah is the most precise and the most detailed instruction from the Quran. And still, after most of my lessons, people still ask me the question, do I have a choice? Can I do this? Even if I've shown them from Allah, it's almost like Allah is telling you in the Quran, this is a command, and we still go, oh yeah, I want to have a choice in this matter. So that's the problem with us today. So we'll show that. We'll talk about some of the legal aspects around wills. What happens, what are the legal things, what happens. We'll talk about the Islamic will distribution. How does the wills work? How it gets distributed? What happens when you die? Are your kids going to fight over it? We'll talk about all of that. We'll talk about things to consider to put in your will that many people don't know they can actually put in their will. And we talk about the wasiyah, the 1/3 component, which very people know about, which is actually wasiyah. The wasiyah, the Islamic will, the 1/3 is the wasiyah. We'll talk about the executor, by person's choice, where you can get your wills done, and etc. Now, so all of that will take us to Isha. Oh, okay. Who has a will? Alhamdulillah, the sisters are all better than the brothers. Most of the brothers, I was in the class the other day, I had at least 100 people. Not exaggerating. Nobody had a will. Not one of them had a will. So, we have a few sisters here who has a will. Who has an Islamic will? All right, who wants to tell us why they think their will is Islamic? There's a will and there's an Islamic will. So, who thinks their will is Islamic and why do you think it's Islamic? Mona?
My husband and I, we did our will back in Sydney when we used to live there. And we did it through a Muslim lawyer who provided this service to the community through Dar Aisha. Do you know Dar Aisha? So it's an Islamic will, it follows the Sharia. So I believe it's an Islamic will that follows the Sharia. But it's also a...
Not because it was done by a Muslim lawyer, right?
Sorry?
Not because it was done by the Muslim lawyer.
No, because of the text that was written in it, and because it's also a legal will. So it's actually registered with the lawyer. that will
Sister, why do you think your will is listing on the Quranic law?
Probably because it's the divisions are according to Islamic law. The how much of the percentage is
All right. So basically, there's a will. Basically, you can do what you can say. This is my will as testimony. I want to get all my kids to get everything. Or there's an Islamic will. Basically, the difference is that the fundamental difference is that you've specified that this will be distributed by Islamic law, right? That's the fundamental difference between the two things. All right. Because some people have wills, but it doesn't designate or state in there that this will be distributed by Allah's law. Right? Who is your executor, Mona, in your will?
we have two. My brother and Aiden's brother.
So your will, who's your executor? Your will.
My brother.
Your brother and Aiden's brother.
Aiden's brother is his.
Who wants to tell? Who's your executor?
my brother-in-law.
Your brother and your husband together, or one and after the other?
I'm not sure.
All right.
I guess my husband's good.
You guess.
I'm guessing.
This stuff is very precise. You either know, you don't know, you better know it. Right? Because when you die, nobody has to run around to determine what needs to happen and who's the executor. All right? We talk a lot about the executor. Who else wants to share who's your executor?
My brother
Your brother and your uncle together? Yeah.
is not available here.
Your uncle. Is your brother in Australia? He's not in Australia. Who else wants to tell us who's the executor? Who else had a will? Who's your executor, sister? Your family friend. All right. Good variety to have a good discussion. Who is an executor in somebody's will? Are you an executor for somebody's will? Yep. Are you an executor for? A friend. Your father. All right. Okay, good. Do you know what's in the will? Do you know what's in the will?
Yes.
You know the details of the will? Okay. Do you know your friend's will? The exact details? So, but you're the executor, right? So you don't know what to do when the person dies. All right? So it's very important. We're going to spend a lot of time with the executor. Okay, who knows what the 1/3 is? What the wasiyah component of a will is? Do you have something in your 1/3?
Yeah.
All right. You don't have to specify. You just know about it. Do you have anything in your 1/3? Pardon?
1/3.
Yes, that's the part. Do you have anything in there? Mona, do you have anything in the 1/3?
In the third of the wasiyah?
Yeah.
You're testing my memory, Brother Ismail. It was such a long time. It was
Okay.
15 years ago
All
when
right.
we did it.
Okay. It's important. We're going to talk about it. Why all of these things I'm asking you, you will go away and you'll go home and you go, I need to fix this. All right? So, who wants to give us an example of what they've included in the 1/3? What did you include in your 1/3, sister?
Yeah, so I haven't done the 1/3 yet, but I've got a daughter that's got ongoing health problems. I wasn't sure if I could leave an additional 1/3 for her.
All right, we'll talk about that. Do you can't remember what you put there? You haven't put anything? You're not sharing? No problem. Okay. It's good. Fine. All right. Okay. Now, Mona's got an Islamic will. Every year's got an Islamic will. Who doesn't have an Islamic will? Who doesn't have a will but it's not Islamic? Okay. Now, does an Islamic will abide by Australian legal standards? Does your Islamic will that you have stand up in court in Australia?
Specified, yes.
If it's specified what?
To be distributed by Islamic law.
Now, what I'm saying, does the will itself, the piece of paper, can it be held in court? Can somebody use it in court as a legal document?
If you follow the Australian legal standards in preparing it, yes.
All right. Mona's done a lawyer. Use the lawyer. Did you use a lawyer? Who used the post office template? Used wasiyah. That's online template. Who is the post office template? Nobody. Who just wrote on a piece of paper? Like last night we had a brother. He just wrote on a piece of paper. I, Muhammad. Now this is my last will and testimony. I make my mum the executor, and she is to distribute my will according to Islamic distribution. Done, signed, sealed, and delivered.
Did it online and
Yeah, online, but that's what he did. So, lawyer, online, post office, piece of paper. Yes, sister?
My understanding is we need to witness, to sign.
Yeah, I'm just asking, what do people
That
have?
would be legal.
That would be legal, okay? So I gave you 4 different options of how it can be done and how people do it. All of them are legal by Australian legal standards. Even the piece of paper the Prophet wrote can go to court, and this is his will and testament. That's why you see a lot of cases in the non-Muslim thing, the guy's in hospital and he's just rewritten his will by paper because the nurse coerced him in writing all his will to her, right? That's what happens. It's a legal document. As soon as Mona or somebody writes now another piece of paper and signs it and dates it, it overrides the previous one. And this becomes your legal document.
Does that need to be witnessed?
Not necessarily. As long as it can be proven that you wrote that and you're by your same capacity. It will take honestly a lot of legal stuff to get all of that. So you don't have to, that's probably the worst way to do it. But it all applies. Alright? Now, can your will be challenged? So lawyer, template, piece of paper. Can anybody, your children, whoever, your cousin, your friend, can they challenge your will?
Yes. Yeah.
All of them or just the type of them? What about the one that's prepared by the lawyer?
Yeah.
Can your will be challenged in court? Any will can be challenged in court by anybody. Right? Any will can be challenged in court by anybody. Who can tell me what is the most common challenge amongst Muslims?
That my parent was insane. That we had dementia.
Okay, so what are they challenging?
So they're challenging that they weren't in their right frame of mind when they were living.
Yeah, but what are they challenging in the world?
Distribution. Maybe that it's not a fair distribution. Maybe.
Okay, so it's fair distribution, right? And who is the most guilty of that? I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. The women. The sisters. Because you have brother and sister, most common, brother and sister. Brother gets 2/3, sister gets 1/3. Sister's not happy. She goes to court. What do you think the judge is going to rule? In Australian court? 50-50. That's the most common challenge of Islamic world or any world in Australia at the moment. The daughters challenging the distribution of the Islamic world. Sisters, remember, you might win. You might get the 50% on the day of judgment. Your brother will take that money from you as deeds. Remember that. So when you remember, you might win, you might get away with it, but on the day of judgment, you will be answerable for money that you took, which is haram for you. Right. So it can be challenged. Now, who's got a naughty child? Don't answer. Can you leave somebody out of your will? Can you leave somebody out of your will? Islamically, legally you can leave somebody out of your will. So let's say you've got 4 kids. One of the kids, they never spend time with you, you're distant from them or whatever, and you're doing your will and you say, I don't want to leave anything for this child. I'm only going to give something for these 3 children. Can you do that Islamically? You can do that legally.
No.
Can you do it Islamically?
Unless he leaves out Islam.
Yeah. So there's only one condition that you can actually do it Islamically is if the person, the child, has become murtad, they've left the deen. But it can't be that you think they've left the deen. It can't be that they're not practicing Islam. They have to physically state that I am not a Muslim anymore. It's common knowledge that they've left the deen. So they become non-Muslim, so to speak, right? So that they don't actually inherit from you anyway. All right. Okay. Should each one of you have a will, or should you just sit there? What about the house? Yeah. The what? Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing because of the noise there. Yes.
Okay. Let's just say, for example, if it's like an asset, like a house, and then if the mother like has children and like some children don't help pay for that house,
Okay.
and then the other children do, and then she says, for example, the other kids won't get it, but then the ones that help do. Is that allowed?
Yes, so it's part of the distribution. We'll talk about how the distribution will work and stuff like that. Inshallah, it might answer. If it didn't answer your question, we'll come back to it, inshallah, right? Now, should you have your own will, or can you have the will with your husband or your brother or your father?
That's just your own.
Each person must have their own will, alright? Now, 5 reasons why you should do your will. 1, it's a submission. It's an ibadah. It's an act that you must do your will. So for those who don't have a will, you have to leave here today with the intention that you're going to do your will after I show you all the evidence. Secondly, is to protect your family, right? If you don't have a will, the government will take control of your estate, right? I'll share these 2 jokes, but I don't know, it's true stories. Most of the time, the questions we get about Islamic wills is the sisters asking the following question. How can I make sure my husband don't get anything from the house? So the sister goes, I said to her, okay, who's the house in? The sister, her house is in her name. Her father gave her the house. But she doesn't want her husband to get anything from it. I don't know why. The funny thing is, she doesn't have a will. I said to her sister, the fact that you don't have a will is all the more reason he's going to get the whole house. By Australian law, if she dies tomorrow without a will, he gets the whole house. By Australian law. So they will, he had the house, there's nothing you can do now. Nothing you can do. But if she does get the will, has a will, he will get how much? He only gets 1/6 of it. Right? And then the other gets distributed according to Islamic law. You cannot leave your husband out of your world, of your essence. You just can't. That's already. You have to kill him first. You have to kill him, and then you can't inherit from killing him from anything. Right? So actually, there's a good whole lot of questions about this. We'll cover it today. But how to, like, if you kill your dad, Islamically you can't inherit from him. Yes, if you kill the person that you need to inherit from, you automatically disconnected. You can't inherit. So see how beautiful this deen is? It forces you. You can't kill somebody to get the inheritance, because it automatically says you've killed the person. And there's some questions about whether you killed them by mistake, whether you intended, unintended. So khalas, once you kill somebody by mistake, whatever, you're gone. You're out of it, right? So it's to protect your family. The second question is, the sister goes, oh, I'm getting married again. So she's divorced. She's getting married again. But I'd like to make sure my new husband doesn't get anything. So, I don't know, sisters, what we've done to you guys, but if you don't want us to share, Allah's already done. So, the third one is, it's to fulfill your financial obligations, to make sure that you may owe somebody money, you have to pay off things, you have oaths to pay. We'll cover that in detail. By the way, you don't have to take too much note, but you can. I know the sisters like to write. I'll share the slides with you if you want the slides, but you can still write if you want. But if you just feel you're writing to remember, then I'll give it to you. But if you feel you're writing to study, then that's fine. Your children. So if you don't have a will, it means your children may not get their right, their due right, or what they're supposed to get. What will happen with that? On the day of judgment, they will come for it. Believe me, brothers and sisters, on the day of judgment, it's nafsi nafsi. Everybody is going to look for where can I get more deeds. They will go after every penny you owe them. Alright? And don't procrastinate. Who's a procrastinator here? We're all procrastinators. Most of us are procrastinators, right? I'll do it tomorrow. I'll think about it. Don't procrastinate on this. Alright. So why do I need an Islamic will? First, we'll show you it from Allah's law, and then to avoid the laws of intestacy, which is the government taking control of your estate. If you don't have a will, then the government will take control of your estate. Now, any reverts in the group, in the audience today? Alright. So, the biggest problem we have with the revert phase, we just had one last Friday, in Melbourne, right? The brother got cremated. the family would not budge. So what's the solution to that? I'm signing a deal with ICB, I'm signing a deal with Benevolence to make sure that as soon as somebody embraces Islam, the next step is a will.
That's really good.
So what they put in the will? I have embraced Islam, da 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 da. My first wish, we'll talk about it, I must be buried as a Muslim. Now, when the ICB went to argue the case for the brother, the family wanted to provide him, there's nothing they could do because they didn't have any paperwork to show firstly that he's a Muslim, and secondly that his wishes was to be buried that way. The family cremated him. Alright? So that's very important. Okay. Now, this is the start of showing to you why it is compulsory to have a will. First, Prophet ﷺ said, it is the duty of a Muslim who has anything to be kept, not to let 2 nights pass without writing will about it. Say Bukhari, very clear. Every single person in this room has something to be kept. So people say, I don't have money. It's not about money. You have a car, you have clothes, you have Nike outfits, you have 10 bags, you have 5 Prada shoes, all of the stuff you have. It is something that needs to go to somebody. So you need to write a will to make sure that all of that gets distributed according to Allah's law. Now I will show you Allah's law. Right? You don't have to write this down. You won't be able to have enough time to write it down, and you won't be able to remember it, and you won't be able to calculate it unless you've got a photographic memory. This ayah explains in detail how the distribution happens after you die. It is to just show you how precise it is and what is Allah's command, okay? Okay, first before we do that, who is the automatic inheritors? So the people that will automatically inherit from you, you have no choice about this matter. So sisters, your husband will inherit from you, you have no choice. Whether you like him or don't like him, khalas, he's gonna get. Alright? What's the solution if you don't want him to get anything from you? You can't. Will doesn't do anything. The only way you're going to make sure he doesn't get is to divorce him. But then you're in trouble if you're divorcing him for nothing. Alright? Then, father and mother, automatic inheritance. And then, children, automatic inheritance. If you have this, everybody else is cut off. No brothers, no sisters. Who do you see here that's missing? That's missing here that people actually don't realize. No, brothers and sisters. Yeah, a lot of countries, a lot of nationalities, cultures think that brothers and sisters automatically inherit. They don't. Once you have children, it cuts off everybody else, except if you only have daughters. If you only have daughters, it's slightly different rules, but we won't cover all that detail today. It's a whole big class on that, right? So the whole scenario here is basically to show you. So who's not here? Who's not here? Your grandchildren are not here. Many people don't think about it. Grandchildren are not here. They don't automatically inherit. Alright? Your grandchildren don't get nothing from you unless we specify it in the 1/3. That's why we're going to come back to the 1/3. Alright? Now, this is in the Surah Baqarah 180, 181 to just give an idea about the rules. So the ayah says to the meaning, it is prescribed that when you death approaches any of you, if you leave something of value, a will should be made in favor of parents and immediate family with fairness. Is that an instruction or not? Allah says, This is an obligation on those who are mindful of Allah. Very clear. Very clear. Allah gives us two things here. I'm obligating you. I'm not reminding you. I'm not suggesting to you. I'm making it an obligation that you should have a will. But Allah adds there, for those who are mindful. So if you don't have it, Allah is saying to you, you're not mindful of Allah. Very clear. Very, very clear. And yet, after the class, people still ask me, is it compulsory to have a will? Now, many people worry about once they do their will, the kids are going to fight, this one's going to do this, this one's going to change it. What does the rest of the ayah say? But whoever changes the will after hearing it, the blame will only be on those who made the change. So you don't have to worry, I'm not doing a will because the kids are going to fight. It's not up to you, it's not your problem. If they fight, they will be punished, not you. But if you don't do a will, you will be punished. You'll be in trouble. Right? So you make the will, do it the best as you can to Allah's law. Whatever happens after that, you're dead anyway. As long as you won't be answerable for the day of judgment because you made the will. Right? So the following ayah gives you the breakdown.
والذين عقدت أيمانهم فآتوهم نصيبهم إن الله كان على كل شيء شهيدا يوصيكم الله في أولادكم للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين فإن
Allah commands you regarding your children. Allah commands you. The share of the male will be twice of that of the female. It's a command. You cannot change it. You cannot decide that you want to give your daughters equal to your son. Allah has already told you what to do. So the most common question we have, can I give my daughters equal to my sons? Once you're dead, you can't. You can do it while you're alive. So if you want to do this, you have to sell everything and do it while you're alive. If you're doing it to avoid Allah's law, this is another matter. But if you're doing it because you know the daughter might be struggling versus the son, it's up to you. Now look at this. Many say that in Islam, women are disadvantaged. Women always get less than men in the wasiyah. This is completely untrue. Completely untrue. Look at this. If you leave only 2 or more females, the share is 2/3 of the estate. But if you only leave a daughter, she gets half. Her share will be 1/2. She gets half of the estate. How can it be unfair? Right?
فإن كان لهن ولد فلكم الربع مما ترك من بعد وصية يوصين بها أو دين ولهن الربع مما تركتم إن لم يكن لكم ولد فإن كان لكم ولد فلهن الثلث من الله والله عليم حليم.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. There's a Toyota Ferrari black. It's a 4x4. Number plate QSH734. It has parked on the nature strip of an owner down the road. He's giving you 5 minutes to move it before he gets the forklift. If anyone has parked unlawfully or on a nature strip or inside someone's building, please move the car as soon as possible, because definitely we take no responsibility for not following the rules of the road, because that's unlawful.
Alright, so there it says, sisters, if you have children, your husband will get 1/4. Alright? So you can't get away from that. Your husband will get 1/4 if you have children. If you don't have children, he gets half. Right? So this is just to give you an idea of the precise nature of the breakdown. There's actually formulas to do this. Actually, on your website, there's a calculator there. If you want to know who will get what if you die today, you can go and do that. But I don't know why people do that, because whatever happens when you die is what is there. You don't know who's alive at the time when you die, so you don't have to put in your will the names of your children or anything. You don't have to put how much they get, because you don't know who's going to be around when you're dead. So you just basically put that at the time of my death, it's get distributed by Islamic law, and whatever is available, your parents, whoever, that will get distributed according to that by the executive. Alright? So some scenarios, again, where females get a larger share than inheritance compared to males. Only daughters, as there is, with no male children or descendants. In this case, the daughters collectively receive 2/3 or half, as we just saw there. It's just to show people when they say Islamic wills are unfair to women, because they only use the 2/3 and the 1/3 part. And the people often ask, why is that so? Why? So the scholars say, don't even ask that question. This is Allah's law. But secondly, the tafsir of this ayah, they go into explanation, the wisdom around why all of that. And somebody stated, when the wife receives or the female receives the 1/3 or whatever part she receives, it's entirely hers. All of that is hers. When the male receives the money, all that money is not his. He still has responsibility for everybody else around him, even if it's wife. So let's say the wife receives the money, it's completely hers. But if a male receives money, he still has to use that money on his mom, his dad, his sister, all of that is done. So that's one of the wisdoms that some of the scholars say. But the others say, you don't even want to say that, because Allah has made that clear that it's 2 for 1. Right? We might not see some of the wisdom in our life. Right? But then those who want to attack us say that it's an unfair distribution, right? And some of the sisters, they go to court, they say it's unfair. I want the same as my brother, right? And my second last slide, I give you a solution to all of this, inshallah. Okay, quick question. Under what circumstances will your siblings, your brothers and sisters, so you have parents and you have children, which means everybody's cut off, okay? So how will your siblings, your brothers and sisters, actually benefit and inherit from you? Your parents cut them off. It's a trick question. I won't make you think too much. Because your parents inherit from you. When they die, your siblings get from them. It's just a trick question. You get it now?
So the siblings won't inherit if the person
Has
only daughters.
No. If they have only daughters and they have parents, everybody else is cut off.
Oh, because it goes to the parents.
Let me ask you this. You don't have children, you don't have parents, you have a grandfather, and you have a brother, blood brother or sister, right? Which one of them takes priority and precedence in the distribution of the estate? The grandfather or your blood brother? Blood brother? Blood sister? No, your grandfather. Islamic law, by Islamic law, your grandfather is closer to you than your blood brother. Which shows you that if you look at lineage and blood, your grandparents are closer to you by blood They're your sibling. Amazing. Amazing. Okay. Okay, legal concept of the executor. We're going to talk about the executor on the next slide. The guardian. Who is a guardian? Do you know what it means, guardianship, in relation to this? So, who has young children? Alright. So, for those with young children, you need to appoint a guardian for your children if both of you die. People don't think about this. Now, who will you appoint as a guardian? You need to decide. Your sister, your mother, your friend, whatever. You then have to have this conversation with them. And then you have to say, okay, if they are unable to do it, who's next? You have to have the conversation with that family. Will you take care of my children if both of us die? They become the guardians of their children. You are the guardian. Who's the guardian of their parent? Who is their parent guardian? Nobody? You were your mom's guardian. Yeah, no. So like, I'm my mom's guardian. What does it mean? It means that anything legally or medically happens to her, I take responsibility and I make the decision. So you have to have a document called enduring guardianship, and we'll talk about that. And if you have elderly parents, if you don't have a document called enduring guardianship, if she ends up being or he incapacitated medically or in hospital, nobody will be able to make a decision except the hospital, because you don't have authority. So if you only have a mom, if you have mom and dad, the dad can do. But if they're both incapacitated, right? If you have one parent, you must have this document. If your parent already suffers from dementia, it's too late. You have to legally have this, the lawyer has to do this. Then you have a document called power of attorney, which gives you access financially to your parents' stuff, and I'll explain why that's important as well. Alright? Laws of intestacy means, yes, sister?
Can I add in one thing? If you have a child, adult child, with disabilities, also applicable to this guardian.
Yes. So if you have a child, whether they're adult or young, that's with disability, this is even more important. Who is going to be the guardian? Who's going to take care of this child? Will they go into the state? Don't expect your family to jump up, brothers and sisters. Just don't think people are going to put up their hand. Right? Some families are asking, can I send my children back overseas to my parents in my home country? Can you? Can you? Yes, you can. You can. But will they? Is it best for them? Will they want to go? If you have a 10-year-old, a teenager, and then she says, I'm not going, right? And then your executor needs to decide, and they say, okay, she gets a lawyer from school, and then they go to court. What do you think is going to happen? The judge will just ask the child, do you want to go? No? Khalas, done. So you need to think about all of these things in this space, especially when you have young children. Okay, let's think about the executor. So who's the executor? Who's an executor here? What's your role, sister?
To distribute my dad's will according to his stated in the will.
You need to distribute your dad's will according to what's stated in the will.
Amongst all sisters.
Yeah. So you're basically going to be executing the will, right? Anybody else want to give us a definition of the executor? Why do you think the executor is important? Choosing the executor. Why do you think this is probably the most important part of your will?
To distribute fairly.
Distribute fairly? But you've already specified. You already specified that.
So it needs to be somebody that can communicate, stick to the rules, resolve any issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sister?
Like they have the best teachers at heart, and like they do best.
So all of those things are correct. So it's almost like, you know, when you get married, you think, who are you going to marry? It's like you need to choose the executor. Alright? So what happens when they choose the executor? The reason is this person is responsible for everything in your estate. They become you. They are actually you. Right? What that means, I'll give you some examples. Spoke to a brother, I said, who's your executor? He says, my financial advisor. Hold on, where's financial advisor? I said to him, is your health more important to you than your money? He goes, no, my health is. He said, so who do you trust with your health? He said, my wife. I said, so why don't you trust her with your money? He goes, oh, she doesn't know. I said, okay, do you know? So he's got this beautiful, mashallah, beautiful house, 3 daughters, wife, lots of money, lots of stuff. His financial advisor is his executor. I said to him, do you know that if you die, your executor can sell everything you own, including this house, from underneath all of them? If everything's in your name, he becomes you. He doesn't need anybody's permission to do it. He is the executor. He will execute. People don't realize the executor becomes you, and they will do whatever is practical or easy for them. That's why I said, like, all of those combination of things, and we'll talk about some examples of why the executor you choose is so important. So who can tell me who's probably the best executive for you? Pardon? Husband. Alhamdulillah, some of the sisters trust their husbands. So probably the best executor, I'm talking now personal experience now. I'm not talking legal, I'm not talking financial, I'm talking human, personal experience. The best executor example is husband and wife to each other as the first executor. Because that's the person that mostly trust. You've lived your life together, they know what you would have done, they know what you're going to do, they'll take care of the kids, they'll make sure everything's done, you've worked your life together to do that. Most of the cases, that's the best option 1. Right? What's option 2? Father? Brother? What about your children? Son? Okay. How many sons do you have? 2. So which of the son? Eldest or the second? Oldest? Anybody else? Children? Who's got children? Then we'll put them. Okay. How old is your children?
My youngest is 12.
12. Okay, they're too young. Oldest is? 19, okay. Will you give it to your 19-year-old to be the executor?
Depends if they're mature.
Depends if they're mature. Is he mature? No? He is mature. Huh? You've got 2 sons. Which of the 2 sons will you give it to? Oldest? Oldest? Okay. So we've agreed that husband and wife, right? We're all happy with that? And then second, the children, and people often choose the eldest child. It's just human nature, and it's like make the life easy. Ask yourself, is the eldest child the right one? You need to give it to the child that's most like you. So the same brother who said he gave it to his financial advisor, he has 3 daughters. And they were all standing there when I was still having this conversation with them. And I said to him, if you have to choose one of your daughters, which one would you choose? And they all looked at their dad like this. And he said, he pointed to the youngest one. And then she looked surprised. Dad chose me. So I said, why did you choose her? He said, she's just like me. Because the person executing must be you. So the person is most like you. What you would have done is the most appropriate one to do it. But we give it to our eldest child because most older children are the structured ones. They do things like according to the law. They're very practical and stuff. That's the other problem. They're very practical, and what's the easiest to do? So they'll just do, khalas, we need to do this, done. They don't consider what did dad intend with this. Right? So each family dynamics are different. So you need to decide which of your children. As a sister, what's the best advice for the sister here? She's got 2 sons. So she might feel the eldest son is too practical, too business-like, and he might just do. The youngest son is more like her. I'll choose him, but the eldest son will get upset. So what's a good solution for her? Put both of them there. Put both of them there. So an example, in my world, I've got my wife as the first executor, and the second executor, I've got both my sons. And they've got 2 different personalities. Right? So they help each other, like the one will say, okay, let's just do this, this is easy. The other one will no, that's not what dad would want, right? So you can do it that way. And then the third level is our daughters, right? Sometimes the daughter is more practical than the son. Don't assume that the son is necessarily the right one, right? So you, based on your family dynamics, all of that, you can decide. Now, who would like to give it to their lawyer to be the executor?
In state.
Why?
Look, you've already pointed out why. They're just, they go through the process, there's no emotion, they just stick to the law, and there's no, like, if you have to go through variations or anything, they're going to drag it out, it's going to take a long time, they will be earning money from it, so they have incentives.
So she answered all of that. So that's why I don't like to be on because I don't know if the lawyers are listening. Anyway, who had the privilege this privilege of having received a lawyer's invoice? All right. So on the lawyer's invoice, for those who've never seen a lawyer's invoice, I wish you never ever see one, right? So on a lawyer's invoice, spoke to Muhammad for 5 minutes, $100. Spoke to Muhammad 20 minutes, $500. Sent an email to Muhammad, $200. Sent an email to Muhammad's friend, $300. So basically, it's itemized like this. This is how the lawyers work. There's nothing wrong with that. This is how they operate. So when they have to execute your will, what's going to happen?
It'll all be gone.
It'll cost you money. Unless your executor is a legal friend or a lawyer that's a family member and says, I will execute your will for free. Put that in the will. Put it in the will. So that if the will, that they change their mind, the kids can challenge it, it's in the will, you're supposed to do this for free. Alright? So that's why I'm talking on this under my personal branding. Otherwise I'll get into trouble. Alright? Now, once you have chosen your executor, should you have a discussion with the executor and explain to them all the things that you wanted in the will? 100%. Your executor must know what's in that will. And I'll give an example again of my dad and why it was so important for me to know what's in that will. And I was lucky, alhamdulillah, we did the will 6 months before my dad passed away. So it was fresh in my head. And we did it together. So it was fresh in my head. But that was just by sheer coincidence as well. But now I'm teaching you and I'm explaining to you the practical side of when things happen. Right? The last thing when somebody dies is to try and find their will and see what instructions they had and whatever needs to happen, right? So there must be understand. So as we said, somebody with good knowledge, somebody with akhlaq, somebody who has taqwa, somebody who fears Allah, and has a good understanding of how this works. This is that. Pardon? If the executor dies, that's why you have like 3 layers. You have husband, wife, each other. Then you have your son or your daughter, whatever. So you have like 3 layers. So if one person is not available or died, then you, like for instance, let's say you and your husband dies at the same time in an accident or something. That means both executors are born to each other. So then the next layers of each executor takes effect. So that's how it works. Automatic, yeah. That's automatic. That's automatic. In the will, if the first executor is unavailable for whatever reason, incapacitated, then the second executor takes precedent. Alright? Alright. In a ruling order of how things go, in Islam, Quran applies. So you have no choice. So people say, okay, if I have 2 daughters, 2 sons, and 1 daughter, I would like to give them equal share. And the sons have agreed. The sons agree that we will get equal share. Can they?
You just said they can do it before they die.
So this is not before they die. We'll put in the will that we agree that they will get equal share.
You said you can't.
So some scholars say you can. You'll get an opinion that says it can be done. Allah's law is very clear. Once you're dead, Allah's law applies. Very clear. This is a commandment to you. This is how you distribute it. So if you want to make sure your daughter gets what the sons get, do it while you're alive. That's the only way you can do this without having any drama. But if you're saying, I'm doing this to avoid Allah's law, you'll be answerable to that anyway. Sometimes you don't understand the wisdom in Allah's law. We might think, an example, that the sister, like this one brother that said to me, he's got both his sons, mashallah, and him are very well off. The daughter, she's not as well off as the sons. And he said, look, they don't really need the money, whatever. I'd really like to give her more money. Right? So he said he agreed with them in the world that once they receive their share, to give it to her. Right? Now you can't write that and you can't command that. They might agree now, and when the world gets executed, they might change their mind. There's nothing you can do. But if he wants to give her money, give it to her now. Give it to her now. Right? There's nothing wrong in saying, I'm going to take some of my wealth and give it to her now because she is not as well off as the son. Which means once the world's executed, there's less for them because he's taking some of that wealth to give to her. Right? So then the law of the Quran applies, then the law, Islamic legal laws apply, and then your personal wishes apply. In the non-Muslim world, it's basically the law and your personal wishes. Alright. Now some things to consider in your world. So the world is basically, for discussion's sake, is in three parts. If you look at it, it's in three parts. Right? One is Allah's law, meaning that the inheritors get their part. Two is the 1/3, the wasiyah part, which we'll talk about. And three is any wishes you may have. So in your world, you can have these three things, or you only have according to Allah's law. You only have one of the three parts. Right? My recommendation is to have three parts. The first part we have no control over. These two parts allows you to do things. An example. Items you don't own. What are you going to have in it? Who's got an item they don't own? No, nobody has an item they don't own? Think about it. Sometimes you borrow somebody's lawnmower, or you got something from somebody, or whatever. You need to make sure those items that you don't belong to you goes back to the person. The bottom line of the story is make sure you don't have things that doesn't belong to you. But inadvertently, we sometimes forget that you borrowed something, you got something from somebody, this is that. You make to make sure, because if it goes into your estate, it doesn't belong to your estate. Alright? Prophet ﷺ said, you cannot pray janazah on somebody who has a debt. So if you have any debts, you owe people money or people owe you money, you better make sure somebody knows about it, it needs to go into your world. So in the new world platform we've done, there's a vault in there. So you don't have to change your will, you just go and update the vault. So instead of putting in the will that I owe somebody this money, you put it in the vault, and if they pay, you take it out. Right? And we'll talk about passwords and emails in that system.
Someone actually asked a question from the Quran student last week to bring it here, but while you open this topic, so if I can ask it there. So many of females and men, when they get married, they choose to write part of their mahar as in the later stages. Yeah, it's a debt.
There's the next question.
No, I'll hold off there and ask the rest of the questions after.
No, there's the question. I'm talking about it now. Husband promised wife a house, or mahar, or hajj is mahar. So, in the Arabic community, I don't know about the others, I know about the Arabic community, they have mahar mu'akhir. Delayed mahar, pay me later. If this guy divorces me, he's going to pay me $500,000. So, if he dies, she needs $500,000. Right? So that's the rule. The problem we have, we ask why these are issues, because fundamentally first, in the first stage, we don't follow Allah's rules. In Islam, there is no such thing as mahar mu'akhir. There's no such thing. This is tradition. So don't let anybody convince you that you have to have mahar mu'akhir. If you go to the sunnah of marriage, there's no such thing. There is no such thing. You cannot start a marriage with the condition, if you divorce me. You cannot. This is Islamic, it's not valid. It exists, so what happens now? Fatima has 500,000 as mahar mu'akhir. Husband dies. What happens? The 500,000 needs to be given to the wife, and this is not part of the inheritance. We're not talking about the inheritance here. This is a completely separate amount of money that needs to be given to her. Husband promised as hajj He's going to promise to take her to Hajj, or the mahar is Hajj. What now? He has to pay for it. Okay, he married in 2005. Hajj was $8,000. He dies in 2025. Hajj is $30,000. How much is he get paid? He married in 2005. It was only 8,000. Who is going to decide how much he gets paid? Who will decide? Yeah, but who will decide what value it is? The executive. The executive now will decide. The executive is one of the children. He knows, if I give mom 25 versus 8, we're going to get less. Right? All of these come to play. When it comes to money, your children are the worst. The family fights into inheritance is amazing. Now, how do you fix this? By making sure either you give her, take up a Hajj before you die, but if you're unable to, in the mahar contract, sisters, make sure it is specified clearly what the mahar of Hajj is. An example, don't just say my mahar is to take my wife on Hajj, right? Say my mahar is to take my wife on Hajj with Abu Munir on the most expensive package. Or state that the mahar for Hajj is based on the time when I die. So it's very clear that it's 2025 price, not 2005 price. So there's no argument. It is very specific, very clear. That's the point I'm trying to make there. You need to be very clear. But whatever it is, it needs to be paid. All right?
One more question, because there's a few, but I'll leave a couple to the end. That what would you happen if you are the executor of a will and what's written within it is not Islamic in the sense of some of the examples that you've given, that the girls and the boys will take the same, or I've dedicated part of this to go to my brother, while it's out of that third space.
So this question was asked the other day by one of the big chefs on the chef group, and I was so interested to see what they were going to answer. They asked exactly this question. And it's like, for us average people, it's hard to learn because they were having an argy-bargy about it, right? So, if you think about it, if you sign it onto, that's why you have to have the discussion with the executive. Now, forget the will. If somebody comes to you and say, I've got this MOU that I want to sign with you, or this contract I want to sign with you on business, whatever, and in that contract and stuff that's not halal, will you sign it? No. You'll say, no, this is not halal, I'm going to do it. So when you go to the will, where you're the executor, when your father or mother has stuff in there that goes against Allah's will, you say, no, I'm not signing this, I'm not the executor. I don't have part of this. Or you then advise them, this is what Allah's law is. Otherwise, I'm not executing this. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, it's already done and stuff. They've insisted that you do this. Once they did, you're the executor now. You're the executor. You can actually change it. You can actually now apply Allah's law, which means you're saving somebody from getting in trouble. Like, you know how your parents may not have done the Hajj. So you can do the Hajj for them. They may have owned something, so you can do Hajj for them in this way. Alright? So this is why this is important to have the discussion and people understand it.
No, only very good. The other question that is in that space also is, in Australia, obviously the law of inheritance is completely different to the Islamic law of inheritance, and that's why we have the will. But what would you do? Joint ownership? No, it's not about joint ownership. It's more that, what would you do in situations that happens to, I would say, half of the Arabic population, and many of my personal students will come to class as distressed because of the way it ended. So when there's property under, let's say, a father and a mother alive, and they have children, they have a son, so that restricts the grandparents. And then when it comes to distribution, they will make a decision to leave the store that was under the father's name to go to the mother, or under the mother's name to go to the father, or the land that was under the mother's name to go under the father, and only the cash money will be distributed, or only the gold will be distributed, or only gifts and belonging will be distributed. Would that sit Islamically in the sense that, well, at the end of the day, if there were properties, they were not distributed as per the will or the Islamic distribution, because property didn't change as it should have changed, or as long as everyone is happy in that state that the land is under father's name now, that's fine, or under mother's name, that's fine, because we understand it's part of the overall inheritance.
So I'll try and answer that in this particular part here. Now, joint ownership of property. Who has joint ownership of property? Right, which means that you have a house and the title deed is in both of your name. Right? So which means if you die, your husband gets 100%. If he dies, you get 100% of the house. Legally. That's what it means. Agree? Okay. So what's wrong with that Islamically? Now what's wrong with that contract Islamically?
It's not according to Sharia.
Yeah, but what is not according to Sharia?
So 50% is
Yeah, it's basically, it's 50-50, right? Now, it's not a problem. Now let's say husband, wife, boy, son and girl and boy. So make it easy. So the husband dies. Alright? Now the property goes 100% to the wife. It's fine. She dies. The inheritance goes to the son and the daughter. No problem. Husband dies. Property goes 100% to the wife. What scenario creates a problem now? Parents? And yes? No, there's no parents. There's only husband, wife, son and daughter. As soon as she remarries, a problem arises. What's the problem? Parents? The new husband gets 1/4 of her estate if she dies. As long as it's written that he only gets his share from 50% and not the 100%. Because the other 50% doesn't belong to the wife. Only 1/8 of that 50% belongs to her, and the other belongs to the son and daughter. Alright? So you need to make sure that it's written in that way so you can actually change the title deed, by the way. If you change the title deed that it's property in common, then somebody gets 50 and 50-50 stays. Which means if you die, 50% of that goes to your estate and 50% goes to the wife. Alright? So these are very important matters, but if she doesn't remarry or he doesn't remarry, it's not a problem. Question for the sisters. You might not like this question, but it's important to know. If a husband has more than one wife, the wife gets 1/8, the wife gets 1/8. If he has two wives, do they each get 1/8 or do they both get 1/16? Do they both get 1/8 or do they get 1/16 each? We don't know. You don't care. You know it's not going to happen. Right. So they both get 1/16. They share the 1/8.
Just the scenario that you mentioned before, where the house is a common property and the one spouse dies, say the husband dies first, then the wife gets the full house. If they don't have any children, then the inheritance of the house are going to be her family, not his family.
Yeah. So that means you have to make sure that it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Okay? So the 50 part needs to go to the right inheritors. So that's very important, especially even if they don't remarry, as you said, right? That our property in common is a very important one. Now, who's in a scenario, you might have to put up your hand, that the house is in both names or it's only my husband's name, but he says that it's both our house, it's 50-50. Sometimes it's in both names, but the husband just put in both names, but he believes that it's his house because he's paying Other scenario is, even though he's paying and everything, he's saying, look, sister, beloved, for our wife, 50% is yours because, you know, you're raising the children, you're feeding me, you're making good biryani, all that type of stuff, right? So, who is in a scenario where it's like this? Nobody? Because it is very important. You can't have this vague. It can't be that I think I own 50%. So as the sisters, especially, it's more in for you to know this. You can't say, I think I own 50%. Because my husband mentioned one time, you own 50%. It is very clear, you need to know, do I own 50% of this house? Doesn't matter who pays, doesn't matter who's cooking the biryani, doesn't matter whatever. Do I own 50% of this house? Yes or no? Yes, no problem. No, how much do I own? 10%? 20%? 30%? It has to be very clear. Because when it comes to death, that percentage is very important. Even if it's legally, like let's say in the house, the whole house is in your husband's name, right? But he says, Wallahi, I swear by Allah, that 50% of this house is yours. Whatever reason. Or 30% of the house is yours. It must be clear. Even when it comes to divorce. When it comes to divorce, the same rules apply. Because then 50% of the house is yours. So, but if the house is legally in his name only, legally there's nothing that you can do. But we're worried about Islamic law now. Right? So you must be clear how much of the house belongs to you. Not legally, Islamically.
How does that scenario impact divorce law?
Because, there's an example of a sister in the UK. So the husband had 3 houses. And all 3 houses was in his name. But all through their life, Habibti, one house is yours, we own this together, we brought up the children together, we find, we love each other, and all of this is 50-50. Until divorce. When he divorced her, he said, who told you this is your house? It's all mine. Now she went to the court. What did the court rule? In his favor. The house is legally in his name. But the court also said, because you were married to us by Australian law, if you have a good lawyer, you can argue, like 50% is mine because we were living together, all of that. Then she went to Islamic court in the UK. By Islamic court. They have a Islamic court. The sheikhs asked him, in your mind, in all of this, whose houses are these? He said, it's mine. It's just Islamically, we can't do anything. Because he says it's his and stuff, and there's no evidence of us that you have to say part of this is yours. Now, as a wife, you need to make sure if your house is only in your husband's name, but he says, Wallahi Habibti, this house 50% is yours, make it write him in the will. Make him write it in the will. That 50% of this house belongs to my wife. Alright? Because it clarifies it all. And this is a big issue. So coming back down to what you get, what you don't get. Yes,
so say in this scenario where there's a house in the man's name, and that was because maybe the woman wasn't working later on, she starts to start working, she starts contributing to the household income. Under Australian law, when if that man dies, she would be considered part of, she would get some of that after there's a the house, right? But I think the Islamic will, if she doesn't think the man is Islamic, she would now be disadvantaged.
Yes. Unless she writes it. So that's what I'm saying. Go to your husband tonight and say, Habibti, I know the house is in your name, but I've been starting to contribute. Whether you contribute or not, it depends on the dynamics of the family. The husband says, look, whether you contribute or not, I believe in our life, 50% of our house is yours. But that's just words. Islamically, there's no evidence here. Now, he'll answer on the day of judgment. Don't worry. If he's made that commitment to you and he goes against it because you got divorced or whatever. But in that scenario, it is best that he puts in his will. It's part of the considerations. 50%, even though this house is legally mine, 50% of this house belongs to my wife.
But you're already expecting that men will be kind, and if there's a lot of situations where we can't depend on kindness.
Get him while he's kind, while he still loves you, while there's no issues, put it in the will.
And also the spirit of the law versus the actual legal ruling. So, whereas a family member of mine, she's never worked a day in her life, but she's raised the kids. Her husband says that she's technically should not be getting that. That's
what I'm saying. You need to clarify it right now. Because all of these scenarios are there. The house at 50-50, no drama. The house that's only in the husband's name, but he states that it's half of your house. Like maybe some of the husbands you haven't had this discussion. So which means if it's only in his name, it's his. That's it. But now if you feel, I've contributed, I believe 50% belongs to me, you need to have this discussion with me. You need to say, Habibi, does this house 50% belong to me? Of course it does. Can you put it in your will? So you need to be clear. That's why it fixes up any arguments later. It has to be written down. It has to be specified to avoid any dramas.
I would even, not necessarily in the will, because he still might want to divorce later. If he says 50% is yours, you get it in writing now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in the will.
Doesn't have to, but you can change the title deed even if you want to. You can change the title deed.
If they got divorced, can he change and update it like before he would have done?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Get it written. Get it written, not in the will.
Yeah, so that's where you need the legal eagle to say, okay, how do you write this to make sure legally I get part of this? But legally you can. The point is, Islamically, have you agreed? Legally it's easy, because legally the law will be in your favor. But Islamically, have you agreed Islamically that 50% of this house is mine? Meaning that, let's say he buys a fancy car. You know, this part of this car is your car. But Islamically, it's 50% of my car. That's why when it comes to zakat calculation, you must know what you own and what is yours. Right? So see how the two things are linked? So when it comes to finances, everybody needs to know what they own, what is theirs. Now, in the world we live in, it might not all be written, but it is assumed by Islam. You need to write it to avoid anything where it's not written by law. Especially in this joint ownership stuff, alright? Okay, we'll come back to that if you need to. Superannuation beneficiary. So who has super? Who's your beneficiary? You don't know. Most people don't know. They don't remember, but it's obviously the husband or the wife, right? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? So let's say you have $1 million in your super. Your husband is your beneficiary. When you die, the super goes to your husband, $1 million. What happens now? He spends it, buys a month, right? Okay? What's wrong with that? The super is meant to go into your estate. Because the super needs to be divided according to the law. Alright? So we're working with a thing, and you can get your super to do this. Where they basically say, if you want to split it for part of your estate, you need to contact your student provider and change your death nomination to a binding and non-lapsing benefit in favor of the executor of my estate. So you can actually, the beneficiary of your super is the executor. There's a loophole here. Your wife's your executor. The super is sending the money to the executor, which is your wife. You need the executor to be trusted to make sure this is distributed. You have $2 million in super. Your accountant is your executor. He gets a $2 million. See why the executor is important?
You want to pray?
Okay, yeah, let's just pause after this, then we'll pray, inshallah. Zakat not paid. Alright? Oaths made, and we'll talk about a little bit more that in detail after prayer. Alright? And then we'll come to the 1/3, inshallah. You guys look worried.
So what time is this finished today?
This we said Isha time. We'll probably have, with all the questions, we'll probably another hour or so, inshallah.
I'm early, sorry.
What time do you have to leave?
1:30.
1:30. Alright. Which part are you most interested in?
I'm interested. This.
Alright, I need you to get this part. This is important.
If you want to continue to 1:30, we pray after we can.
Alright. What does everyone else want to do? Democracy. We live in a democracy. Alright, let's continue. Alright. Who knows what the wasiyah is, the 1/30 is? So most of us, if we gave some sadaqah now to Tarteel,
That is not automatic.
this is not automatic. If you don't put this, all of your estate goes to the inheritors, right? So this is optional. The 1/3 is optional, but let me entice you. If you gave sadaqah to Tarteel now, what were your intention? You tapped there, which you're going to tap when you leave. You gave $100 sadaqah to Tarteel today. What, in your mind, what were you trying to do? But what? Why? For what? What were you trying to do? After what? After. You were trying to get some reward, right? For who? For you. Every time we do any good deed, it is about you. What else? No doubt about that. But when we die, we want to give everything to the children. Everything's for the children. Oh, for the children, for the children. The children's going to spend it. Here's your last chance for you. In the 1/3. Your last chance to get something for Sadaqah Jariyah in here. You would say, no, I don't have to, I don't want to. Your last chance. How? Okay. This is the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, Sa'ad ibn Waqqas came to Prophet ﷺ, he said, I have much wealth and I have none to inherit for me except the daughter. May I give 2/3 of my property in charity? Prophet ﷺ said, no. I said half of it. Prophet ﷺ said, no. 1/3 of it. Prophet ﷺ said, 1/3, and 1/3 is much. Indeed, it is better that you leave your heirs rich than to leave them dependent, begging from people. So there's a couple of tafsir things here. However, what I'm trying to point here, this is where Islam locks in 1/3. Right? You can't leave everything for your dog, or your cat, or whatever, or some hospital, or some university. You can't. It's not allowed. You can leave a maximum of 1/3 to anybody else. And I'll show you what you can put in there. Alright? Now, you can't put automatic inheritors in here. So you can't say, I will give my daughter extra money in here. So those are automatic inheriting. Your children, your spouse, your parents, you can't get them here. So you can't give anything more for those in here. If you want to give somebody something, you need to give them while they're alive. However, you can put here, let's say, who has an heirloom like a bracelet or a necklace that came from grandma, great-grandma to down, right? So now you have a bracelet or a necklace that's worth $10,000, right? So what's going to happen when you die? It's going to go into your estate. Or you give it to somebody while you're alive, right? But you want to keep it, right? Now you want to give it to one of your daughters. Which daughter are you going to give it to? Which daughter are you going to give it to? You got 3 daughters. Which one are you going to give it to? The one that's like you, that will keep it for her daughter, not the one that's going to sell it because it's quite expensive. Right? Agreed? Now, none of your daughters puts that thing. I'll give it to my granddaughter. I'll give it to Fatima, she's the most like me, whatever. You can put it here, give it to her. But if you give it to one of your daughters, you can put here that I'm giving this. If you don't give it to her while she's alive, I'm putting it here to Fatima. Right? So what this means is the executor will deduct the value of that from her distribution. Alright? Grandchildren, they don't automatically inherit, you need to put them here. Adopted children, foster children, special speech during life. Now, here's the Sadaqah Jariyah. What is Sadaqah Jariyah? What does Sadaqah Jariyah mean?
Ongoing charity.
Ongoing charity. What is the most popular ongoing charity that people sell? Wells. Water wells. What is wrong with the water wells? As Sadaqah Jariyah. It dries up. Alright? So that's not what they tell you. They don't tell you that. They say, give Sadaqah Jariyah for your parents until the day they die, the well dries up. So what is good Sadaqah Jariyah? Islamic education? But how would you give that? Madrasa? Okay, how would you give it to the madrasa? Very important question. You want to leave some sadaqah jariyah for Tarteel. So you say, I'm leaving in my will $10,000 to NZF, $10,000 to Tarteel. Good or bad? Good or bad? Good. Okay. So we give it $10,000 to NZF, we get it, we spend it. We give $10,000 to Tarteel, they get it, they spend it. What happened now? The sadaqah jariyah didn't last very long, right? So what do? You need to make sure that in your sadaqah jariyah component here, you either donate to something. Let's say an example. Tarteel is buying a property for the Quran school to go. You then say, I would like to give my sadaqah jariyah for the purpose of the Tarteel only if they buy a property. That's what I need to do. Okay? Now what happens if Tarteel never buys the property? What happens to your money? Executor now makes a decision. Now this is what the executor can do a decision. The executor goes, eldest child, not the extra 10K for us. Most practical thing to do, yalla, we can share it amongst ourselves. The child that's most likely will say, this is what mom wanted. Mom wanted the Quran school name, which is the next Quran school that's doing this, and give it to them. Right? Also, when you give to charity, to NZF, whatever you want to do, if my work for 2005, I left a certain amount of money for organization which I want me to send to. So you put a condition. I am leaving $10,000 towards this charity or this mosque to build a mosque on condition that the mosque is still in the same aqidah. The mosque is still run according to when I was alive. All of those conditions you can put, because many masjids get taken over, goes crazy, whatever. So you put the condition there, so your executive has the option to change what you want to do. When you give to Quran school, the Quran school is closed down. If the Quran school is not run efficiently, the Quran school has a bad reputation. Now the executive says, Mom wouldn't be happy with that, I'll do this. Third option you have now, Awqaf Australia, there's a flyer there from Awqaf Australia. We allow you to create a waqf, and I'll show you the end of this, where you actually put money into a waqf in your name. That money is never spent. Only the returns of that money is distributed according to the charitable needs that you want. So you create a waqf, you say, this is Fatima, waqf of Fatima, I'm putting $50,000 in there, and I want the returns to be distributed to homelessness, family violence, Quran schools. So for the rest of your while the day of judgment, your sadaqah jariyah is fulfilled. That's in the 1/3. Alright? Now, who would like to leave me 10% in the sadaqah jariyah? Nobody's even smiling. Last night, even nobody wanted to leave me anything. So, it's okay. Nobody's going to leave me anything? No? Alright. Now, who has a friend or a non-family member or somebody that's not related to them? You don't have to mention their names or anything, but who has, if you come to mind that you say, I'd like to live here? Nobody? This sister. You have a friend? Right?
I just thought it now.
Okay, you have a friend that you'd like to put here, right? Now the sister has a friend she'd like to put here. So she says, I leave $10,000 to Fatima. Problem or not a problem? Good, right? But what I'd like you to do, when you do that, I've listened to this from the non-Muslims fighting in court over this. Because let's say you put $20,000 here, I'm leaving $20,000 to Fatima. What's your executive going to say? What's the kids going to go? No, I don't think mom would have done that. Fatima must have coerced mom to do this. She must have conned mom to do this. So how do you get around that? When you put there, I leave $20,000 to Fatima, put the reason. I am leaving $20 to Fatima because Fatima has always been my best friend. Since school, we used to do thick and thin together. She was there through bad times, through good times, and these are the reasons why I do. If it goes to court, the judge will rule in your favor because you had a reason. You want to leave something to the nurse. You maybe got sick and you spent a lot of time in hospital. You want to leave something to the nurse, put the reason. You want to leave something to the doctor, you leave something to the hospital, put it there and put the reason. So if it gets challenged, you have more chance of it getting approved. Alright? Yes, sister. Yes. So here, if you are, like the sister asked last night's class, she's a revert, she's got no Muslim family, right? but she can't, the non-Muslim family can't inherit from her automatically, according to this rules. You can put them here. You can put your siblings here, you can put your mom here, you can put your dad here, all of your non-Muslim family, you can put them here. In the 1/3. That's why it's 6 to 1/3. Alright? What else can you put here? Try and put percentages. Actually, while I was talking yesterday, I was thinking about how weird it was here. Is actually, we can put a formula there. So what happens is, because this has to be a maximum 1/3 of your estate. Now, if you put there, I'm leaving $100,000 for each of my grandchildren. Right? Suddenly you have 20 grandchildren. Or you have 9 grandchildren like me, then that's 900,000. So let's say my estate is only $1 million. Not allowed. Not allowed. I have to have a maximum of 300,000 for $1 million estate, right? Now, if you put there that I'm leaving $100,000 for each grandchild, and your executive then says, look guys, I'm sorry, you can't get this because it is a maximum 1/3. I need to reduce all this in here proportionally to make putting it under 1/3, right? And the grandkids challenge it in court. What is going to happen? They'll win because it's very specific. It says give them 100,000. The judge doesn't care about the 1/3. This is not Australian law. This is Islamic law. So the judge will go, what's this 1/3? You put there, your grandfather put 1,000, give it to them. So put there percentage or put a clause, which I'm going to get them to write, then we can use that same clause. Basically says the executor has the discretion to ensure all of this is proportionally adjusted to make sure it stays within 1/3 of the wasiyah. So that means legally, she has the authority to reduce this. And then you can put percentages as a result. So that I'm just going to talk to the guys to see how we can make this easier for people to apply. All right? Any questions on the 1/3? Have you thought of somebody now that you can put here without that thing? Have you thought of people left out? As a matter of fact, we don't have our grandchildren in our world. We don't. What I was thinking was like, oh yes, I went over. Oh yes, we don't have our grandchildren either. So we just updated, signed up to Wasiyah as well, and we're updating it, right, to put the grandchildren in there. Yes. If the person passed away? No, so what happens is, so this is a good question. She put there, she's leaving $10,000 to Fatima. She dies, the world's executed, Fatima's already died already. What happens now? Executor. Right? What was the reason she gave it to Fatima? Because they were friends, they were close, whatever, so it's for Fatima. So the executor, the money goes into the estate. But let's say it was for Fatima, children, because whatever, there's another reason why it was Fatima, then the executive can make that decision, that's the purpose, I'll give it to Fatima's sister, or whatever else happens around that. So that's where the executive becomes really important, alright? Is that clear? Who's going to now change their will to add 1/3 in it? You have to. For your sadaqah jariyah, you have to. That's all you do, you have to put it there. Because it's the last chance for you to get rewards until after. It's the last chance. And you might think you don't have grandchildren, the grandchildren will come. Inshallah. Right? Maybe you don't want to leave anything for them. Many of us don't want to leave anything for the children. People say, I don't want to leave anything for them. Alright? I'll give you the answer to that at the end. Alright. Now, special wishes. Where would you like to be buried? So this is now, okay, sorry. The first part of the will is the inheritance. The second part of the will is the 1/3. And now these are special wishes. Anything special that is got nothing to do with money, so to speak. Where would you like to be buried? What if you die overseas? Right? If you die overseas, the executive needs to know, Mom said, I want to be buried where I die. Put it here. Siblings are arguing, no, bring Mom's body back. Do we get this part? Alright. What happens is basically, where would you like to be buried is important, right? Why is it important? Do you guys care where you're buried? You don't want to be buried amongst non-Muslims. You want to be buried, is there a specific burial place in Melbourne that's nice? This is how the conversation with my dad started. I said to my dad, Dad, they're having these grave sites at Thames Creek, which is this really serene, beautiful place. right? That has really this nice gravesite. Would you like to go and have a look at the gravesite? I mean, it's an awkward conversation to have. You know, like, this is weird. But I had a good relation like that. So we went, look at it. We bought plots for everybody. And then I said, okay, like that, how about your will? We need to now sort out your will, right? We need to sort out your wasiyah. Why did I want to do that? Because first of the executor, one thing I didn't mention, the sister has an executor who's overseas. Once you execute this will, the executor must be present to do anything. They must be physically present. Just to change the card to my dad, to change the bank, to do anything, you have to be physically present. So if somebody's overseas, to execute anything simple, they have to come here, copy of the will, everything. I went to change the car registration. I need to be physically there, copy of the will. She read it line by line, looked for my name. I need to show my ID, this is me, it matches up. Scan the whole document and put it in the system, the will. She actually put it in there, right? So in the executive space, it is preferable to have the person in the same place you are in. So my brother was in Perth, lives in Perth. So when I had the conversation with my dad to get the will changed, I used the excuse that my brother was in Perth. I just wanted to make sure I'm my dad's executor. Right? And I'll explain that in a minute. Who should lead your janazah? Okay, where are we going to be buried, sister? Is there a nice place here in Melbourne? You don't know? Which mosque would you like to be buried from? You can write it here. If you have one sister wrote, one of her wishes, I want to be driven past my house on the way to the Kaaba. The executor needs to know that. So he needs to tell the guys in the mosque, guys, I remember this is a real story. And we told the guy, the driver of the he goes, what are you talking about? It's over here. The Kaaba is over there. He said, it's a sister's wish. She wants to go past the house. What difference does it make? She wants to go past the house. It's a wish. House, just do it. Just go this way and go there. Right? Now, so, like in Sydney, I don't know about Melbourne, they have these really new fancy places where you can be buried. It's cheaper to do it, so you need to think about that. So if you have a specific place, you need to tell your executor, I bought a plot here, this is where I need to be buried. What about your janazah prayer? Who would you like to lead your janazah prayer, sister? Yeah. Who's going to lead your janazah prayer? You don't care? Your husband? You don't know? Who would you like? You don't know, you haven't thought about it. Think about it. What? Why do you need to think about this? Why do you need to think about this? Because the imams assume they have the right to lead the janazah, but they don't. It is not their right to lead the janazah prayer. Many masajids will not allow you to have the janazah there if the imam is not allowed to lead the prayer. So now the executive needs to know, if you're going to pray in Faulkner or ICV or whatever, and they have that rule, then you don't go there. Because the person had asked, I want the person to lead my prayer, it's a different person. Coming back to my story. Doing my dad's will. My dad said, I said, Dad, what would you like to do janazah prayer to? He said, one of you. Right? So we put in the will. My dad wanted one of his sons to lead the janazah prayer. So okay, what if we're not there? I want one of my grandsons to lead the janazah prayer. What if they're not there? I want Sheikh Abaranan from MIA to lead the janazah prayer. By name. My dad said, by name. Sheikh Abaranan from MIA Liverpool to lead the janazah prayer. What if he's not there? No, so it's a halal. One of us needs to be there. Then I told my dad was finished. You know what he did? He said, I want to add another line. Can I? I said, yeah. And I'm thinking like, it was a unique relationship I had at that point with my dad. Because I don't want this sheikh to lead my prayer. I just found that it was very unique, right? And I see where I get some of my manners from. But my dad was very quiet like me, but that's just like. So, my dad passes away 21st of Ramadan, 2021. It's COVID. Fortunately, we didn't live in Victoria. Otherwise, we'd been locked down. New South Wales wasn't locked down. Janazah took place. We prayed at the burial. So one of the reasons we chose this burial place, they have a place to make the janazah prayer at the grave. So the backup was that if you can't find a good mosque or a mosque big enough, so you can actually go and pray there. And sometimes if they pray in the masjid, some people missed out, you can pray again there, right? So these are janazah rules. Anyway, so we went in, prayed, I led the prayer. Just about finished, we wanted to move the body. Hundreds more people came. And I said to my nephew who was standing next to me, Ikram, you need to lead the prayer for the second one. We're going to get more people to pray. He goes, no, uncle, I'm not leading this prayer. I'm not leading this prayer. Look at all the chefs standing here. I said, Ikram, Grandpa said specifically he doesn't want them to lead the prayer, so you better lead the prayer. Right? So I knew the rule because I knew the will. He said, okay. So he leads the prayer. Second prayer. So we're just about to move the body. Hundreds of people came. Guess who walks through the door, my sisters? Guess who walks through the door? Sheikh Abu Ranan from MI. Wallahi, this is not exaggeration. Sheikh Abu Ranan walks through the door. I said to Sheikh, I went to him and said, Sheikh, you need to lead the prayer, the third prayer. He goes, no, I'm not leading the prayer. He said, Sheikh, my dad asked for you by name. By name, he asked for you. Sheikh came and led the prayer. So my dad, from writing in his word as a dua, because he wrote it, he had his wish. He got it. The barakah of writing things and following Allah's law, you cannot imagine the barakah you'll have. That's why it comes to the inheritance, giving the money, worrying about your children and stuff, the barakah is there. Follow Allah's law. Your daughter that got less than her son, the brother, will have more barakah in the money and do more with that money than the son will ever do, if you follow Allah's law. You might give her from him today because she's not as wealthy, and she will be worse off than he is because you went against Allah's law. Right? So that's the lesson. Any other special request you may have? Can anybody think an example? Your sister, what would you like to do? Leave it 20? No?
That's a good idea. So I'm paying for the education for all of my children. So I've only paid for the first two, and so there's two left. So can I say to get the fee, paying off the education for each of my children?
Yes. So the other thing I forgot here in the guardianship, right? Alright, just before the 1/3, what did you forget in that 1/3 there?
Siblings.
You can lift your siblings, but what did you forget there in relation to guardianship? So let's say you've got young children and you put a guardian. They're not automatic inheritors, but they need to take care of their children. They need to go to school. They need to go to Islamic school, private school. You need to leave money in the 1/3 for the guardian to take care of your children. So the sister's question was that she's taking care of, she's paying for children's education. She's paid for the first two. For the third one,
I've got another two.
you got another two she needs to pay for, right? So that will come as part of loans and outstanding debts. You can put that there and it will get deducted. Right?
And so if each one of the children was to have a deposit on a home, can I put that in outstanding debt, or should I give that before?
Alright, so the sister, you want to give a deposit for your children in their homes. Yeah. Their homes. When you die, it gets divided equally. So you need to specify, or you need to do it now.
Yeah.
You need to put that money, basically give them that money, you put it in trust as an example. You said, I put this money in trust for your home deposit.
Yeah.
Right? So you have 4 children, right? And then the 5th one is you give me a home deposit also. Alright? So home deposit for the 4 children, right? So your case is a bit more complex legally, so we can actually make sure the lawyer talks to you and explain to you how to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Alright? Can you think of any other special request you want to add here?
Ask my sons to do right like
To do Umrah on your behalf. So why don't you just do Umrah now? Alright, but you can put it as a special wish here, and then, let me think. The money, how would you put the money? Because your debt estate is yours, you can't give them any more money than they're already going to inherit. Let me just think about that for a moment, take that on notice as to if you wanted somebody to do something like go on Umrah for you, one of your children. If it's not one of your children, it becomes easy. You just put it in 1/3. I want my friend daughter to do Umrah, and I'm leaving $50,000 for her to do my Umrah. But if it's one of the automatic inheritors, I need just to check that. But from my understanding, is if you put it there,
30.
but they didn't. Let me check that.
Can we take away the financial component of the payment?
You can take the financial components away as a wish, right? That you can say, I want one of my children to do Umrah on my behalf, if I haven't done Umrah.
Or if you've done it, you just want that to have a niyyah of their umrah plus for you.
You can't join the niyyah for Umrah. So they're going to do Umrah for you, right? Have you done Hajj? No. You can only do Hajj once for a person who's passed away. If they've done it, you don't have to do it again. You can only do Hajj for a person who's passed away if they haven't done it. You can only do it once.
If I didn't do Hajj, suppose I passed away, can I mention that here?
Yeah, you can. You can mention that in your special wishes. Can one of my children please do Hajj on my behalf? So there's many things you want to consider here. As a matter of fact, as I'm teaching this, I had a thought the other day that what I want to put here is that my Hajj books, all the books that I've written, I want to put here that I give permission to any of my children, grandchildren, heirs to take all of my writings, whatever time and place it is, to take it. They have authority to use it, to improve it and enhance it. Right? Because it's the copyright, I'm passing the copyright to them. Right? So you can put a condition as long as they mention grandpa, as an example, right? Or great-grandpa, whatever. But you give permission. So at some point in time, if the publisher says you can't do this because this book belongs to your dad or whatever, your grandfather, then in the will it says, I've given permission for that. So there's some unique things you can put here. Right? Especially depending on like if you're a doctor or whatever you want to do. And like say you're a sheikh or a sheikha, you've got all these Qurans or all these books that's in the house there, and you want to give it, the kids are going to just sell it. You say, okay, I'll leave it again to the special kid that's going to study, or I'll give it to Tarteel, example, or I would like these things to go to specific areas. So you need to think about all of those things. Like in my mom's house, my mom says, okay, after my dad passed away, she said, okay, these things are mine, but we can't really take it because where are we going to put it? And she didn't want it to go. So she said, okay, put your names on the stuff. So technically speaking, it belongs to us. So I've got a cabinet in my mom's house that's got my name on it. So she's given it to me. She said, this is yours, right? But I'm saying, look, I'm not going to take it because it feels bad to just take it, right? And she likes it. So I own it. Now let's say it was something of value that is zakatable. I need to pay the zakat. So that's how the rules is. You need to know what you own. All right. Special request to think about it, sister.
Because one of the questions was for the kids on the paper, so I'm not sure if it's the right space to ask for it now. If you prefer to delay it, we can.
It's coming.
So it was about lending money though.
It's coming.
Jazakallah.
Alright, so let's just go. Okay, yeah, it's coming. Islamic distribution order. Now, you died. We buried you. Everything is now, just to make it easy for the discussion, your entire world is now, everything's sold as that. And it's $1 million. We've got $1 million in your estate. This is what will happen to it. Alright? This is the order. It goes the opposite order to what I've just explained. The distribution actually goes the other way around. And that's why you can see why the kids fight. Alright? So first, debts paid to Allah, owed to Allah needs to be done. Any outstanding zakat. So you need to know, how much did my dad always pay his zakat? What's zakat's due? So let's say dad leaves it to you now, he's never paid his zakat and he says, I need to pay the zakat for all the years I've missed. So you have a bigger problem now. So when you have this conversation with your dad or your mom, when he puts it there, you say, okay, have you paid your zakat? Are you up to date with your zakat? Right? If he or she's not up to date with the zakat, get them up to date before they die. So you don't have the problem. But let's say they die, there's zakat anniversary in Ramadan. And they died before Ramadan, you know that the zakat is due, right? Up to that point there, up to that point of the day, it's not up to this point, right? So any zakats. What about an oath? What's an oath to Allah? The Lebanese will know this, the Arabs know this. What's an oath to Allah? They're not in trouble with this, by the way. Because everything they say is wallahi. Everything they say is wallahi. They don't know the implication of that. So wallahi, I'm going to give you $100,000. Allah, you've done it. You just swore by Allah that you're going to give someone $100,000. This is what it means. So any oath you made with Allah's name, or whatever it is, wallahi, Allah, if that girl agrees to marry me, Allah, I'm giving 100,000 to Tarteel. Halas, we need to come and do it. So that's the oath. Then, any debts to people. I've been only to 2 janazas where somebody at the janazah stood up and said, if my dad owed you any money, please come see me. So that's why debts needs to be known. It has to be written. So in the new system, we've got the vault. You can put it there. Somebody owes me money, or I owe that person money. All right? So you need to put it there. Loans, oaths. Now, what's a personal oath besides the oath to Allah? You made an oath between between people that I will do this if you do that, right? Promises, an example. Now, which of the two is one and which is two? Is that the right order that I've got it, or is it the other way around? What do you think?
I think that people first and people first.
Why?
Because they'll come back and ask for it.
Because the people will come back to the day of judgment for it, where Allah, there's a chance you'll be forgiven. So the other way is important. Both are important, but just to show you that people is not going to let you go. So don't have anything left with people, right? So then we pay cars, house, unpaid invoices, right? Including your burial. So your burial must be paid from your estate. Obviously, when you die, they don't have access to your estate. So the person that pays it, they have the right to take the money back from your estate. Only the burial, not the azar, not any extra money spent in relation to your burial. It's only to bury you. So burial costs $12,000. That's what it's used for. That's what it's used for. All right. Now you've got an estate of $1 million. All of this the first 3 points have been done. We spent $100,000. Okay. We spent $100,000. How much is left? $900,000. Now, the 1/3 kicks in. See, it's the opposite order. The 1/3 kicks in. So whatever you have in this 1/3 is now executed. So, grandchildren, friends, Fatima, all of them are here. So let's say, in here, it all added up to $200,000. Right? So now, how much have we spent now of your million? $300,000. So now, the $700,000 that's left over is distributed to the inheritors. The $700,000 is distributed to the inheritors. And also, before we get to the 1/3, there was $1 million. We had 100,000 taken out, so there was 900 left. What's the maximum could be distributed here? 300,000. Right? So let's say the calculation here came to 400,000. The executor now needs to adjust it to push it under 300,000. Because there's a maximum in the 1/3, depending on the size of your estate. Then we've got 700,000 left. So your will gets executed for the inheritors, 700,000 only, not the 1 million. You see how the will works? First, anything that you owe to people, Allah, all of that. Then the 1/3 wishes you put there, and then it gets executed accordingly. Any questions about that? All right.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
What about home loan?
Home loan. So basically, if you still have a mortgage, you have $2 million, now but it's $3 million, right? No. You have a $1 million mortgage. What do you think will happen?
The bank will take the house.
No. So basically, the examination will look like, okay, is there somebody here the capacity to live in the house to continue paying the mortgage? Do we have to sell the house? So let's say you've got a $1 million mortgage, the house is worth $2 million. So you sell the house, you pay the $1 million off, you've got $1 million left. You're back here. Right? Now, if you have a $2 million house, and you still owe $2 million, which is quite common, you sell the house gets paid off. So there's nothing left here except anything else. Right? One more scenario that I forgot to mention, coming back to my personal story. I'm the executor. So, my dad passed away, the house is in both names. Mom and dad. So the house belonged to mom. Right? So I can't sell the house because the house is in my mom's name. But let's say the house was only in my dad's name. If the house is only in my dad's name, I can technically sell the house. If my brothers and sisters insist they want their part of their inheritance, I am forced to sell the house. What happens to mom now? What happens to mom? Everybody assumes somebody's going to take care of mom. It ain't happening. It ain't happening. In Malaysia, they introduced a law that said they can't sell the house until the mother dies. Because what happened was, all the kids were selling houses and the mothers were in the street. That became such an issue, they introduced a law to change it, to make sure that doesn't happen. So if your house is only in your name, your executor can sell the house anytime, and mom's on the street. Or vice versa, right? So, again, very important. Then the car, so, to change the car, as I explained to you. So we decided, my sister had a really dodgy car. She's the only girl with 4 boys. My dad had a reasonably good car. So I suggested, guys, why don't we give the car to my sister? So the others agreed, no problem. So I went to change the car to her name. So we all agreed it's no drama, not an expensive car. But let's say one of the brothers said, no, I don't agree to this, I don't want to this. So that all the executor has to do, and I might still do it just to be safe, the value of the car is taken from my sister's distribution when we do it. Alright? The banks, I'm getting recorded, right? I'm live. Okay. The banks, the last people you tell about this is the bank. Why? They freeze the account. As soon as you tell them somebody's died, they freeze the account. And even in the non-Muslim space, the amount of fights they have in the court just to get access to the account. So what you need to do now, my brothers and sisters, if you have elderly parents, make sure you have access to their account. So now this conversation, Dad, I need access to your bank account. Dad, we need to buy a funeral plot. Dad, how much are you giving me? It's a very hard conversation to have, right? But it's important. So an example, my dad, I didn't have access to the bank account. I didn't even think about it. So when my dad passed away, I needed to go to the bank to get access to his account. He put my name on there. I'm the executor, whatever. But I needed to take my mum with me, because now she's the other person on the account. And the bank will not budge until the other person's there. My mom is 90 years old. I had to drag my mom into the bank to do this. Right? Unfortunately, again, the girl behind the counter was really, really good, and she allowed us to do this. Even though she realized that my mom didn't 100% understand, but she could see what we're trying to do. So now I have access to my dad's account, and we can manage the money. But if my dad had his account only in his name, and nobody else has access to it, when you tell the bank, they freeze it. Now they'll wait for the probate order for you to execute the will for you to get access to it. Right? It's a huge thing. So this is very important, and I can tell you about it. Alright, we're almost done. Who should you choose executive? We talked about that. What happens when you try to execute bank card, probate order? Probate order means for me to execute my dad's will now, I need to go to the court and get an order to say I can execute this will. Why did the government do that? Who can tell me? So they'll know who's going to get inheritance so they can tax you. Because you pay tax on capital gains and inheritance tax. It's huge. Right? Can I leave assets for my inheritance? We talked about that, guardianship. When you should have discussion, you should have this discussion. But how you bring it up is the relationship you have with your parents. It's very hard to do this. I have a family. The parents don't want to hear anything about it. They don't want to have the discussion. The father's got they got 6 kids, mashallah, very wealthy, and one of the daughters are really panicking. So I said, okay, what you do is, next time I have my session, make sure your dad attends, or the family members attend. So like if your family, your parents are 1 year, they're listening to me, you're not asking because you're trying to get to that money, you're trying to fix this. So when I said, okay, who has got a will in this room? He didn't put up his hand. So they're trying to figure out who's the executor. When they ask the dad, he won't tell them. Right? So now, I'm saying, okay, who's got a will? I'm hoping he's putting up his hand and I was going to get the answer. Like, who's your executor? He didn't put up his hand. So I still don't have the answer. Another scenario, the father passed away, the son, 6 children, the brother who was the executor hands out the inheritance, but he leaves out his sister. Now they don't know whether he left her out because he did that or because the father did that. But anyway, she didn't get the inheritance. But he gave money to her daughter. The daughter then says, is this money halal for me? Answer. The mom didn't get,
If it's within the third, it'll be halal, yeah.
is the money halal for her? Nobody knows whether he put it in the 1/3. Nobody knows what the uncle did. So, first question when we went to Professor Munir, what was in the world? Nobody knows. Said, okay, give the money back to the uncle. Okay, give the money back to the uncle. Want to execute the world. No, that's going to cause even more drama in the family. Okay, she said, can I give the money back to my mother? Can she? She can, but what if it's more than what the mother was supposed to get? So the mother says, I don't want it. So the last suggestion for her was, Sheikh Munir said, ask her to give it in sadaqah in the mom's name. On the day of judgment, they'll sort this out. But she knew she didn't want to use it because she knew this money, because she doesn't know it's in the 1/3, whatever, and that's what happened. So it's very, very hard. Okay. Power of attorney doing it. Now, world examples quickly. So in Sydney, there's a lawyer. They do wills for $350, enduring guardianship for $300, and power of attorney for $300. So you probably get lawyers in Melbourne who do the same. But those are 3 documents you will need if you have elderly parents or you have somebody in care. These are 3 documents you need. Your will, power of attorney, enduring guardian. To add your name to your dad's bank account, you need power of attorney. Or you need your dad to go with you. Right? Then we have, I'll give you the slide, so you got that? So these are law-rich lawyers. But this is what my dad, so my dad, even though I had all the pamphlets and all the platforms, Dad says, we're going to the lawyer. And my dad, it wasn't a complex estate, but that's just my dad. So we went to the lawyer, and they did it for us. Then in Australia, we have the flyer there, we've got muslimwalls.com. It's a new platform that allows you to do this. Everything I explained to you, it goes to you step by step. It's $99. Let me just go through that quickly. And putting the waqf, it's just an explanation of waqf. For those who are telling the waqf thing, this is your sadaqah jariyah message to for the afternoon. Put some money in waqf. Whether it's half Australia, whether it's Tarteel Qur'anic. For example, what we're doing is, we say to Tarteel, as an organization, create a waqf with us. Put $10,000 in there for discussion's sake, right? The purpose of that is anybody who wants to create sadaqah jariyah to as a waqf, puts money into this waqf. The returns, so by Australian law, we must return 4% of the returns back to the community every year. So at least 4% of this investment will come back to whatever you say. Now you say, I want it to come back to Quran school at Tarteel. It will come back to you. The more money there is here, the more you get back. The more money is there, the more rewards you get. So that's how the waqf works. Alright, so have a look and we can come to your house, we can come to families, to explain in more detail how this works. Because people set up family waqfs. So to your birthday, Father's Day, forget to give me money, gifts, socks, whatever, put money into the waqf. It grows because it's sadaqah jariyah, right? And then the walls is basically, these are the people on the board right now. There's a dodgy guy on the right there. They've got Professor Munir Traul. He's a PhD from South Africa, from Cape Town. MashaAllah, his knowledge on Islamic worlds. He's sat with the top lawyers in Australia, and they built this platform to make sure it's Islamically correct and legally correct. We went to visit him, and they showed us how advanced they are in South Africa with this Okaf stuff. Sheikh Abdul Salam Zod, his name is the lawyer in the backhand who does all the law stuff, the legal stuff. So when you fill in your thing online, she checks it from a legal standpoint, the Sheikh checks it from Islamic point, it gets sent back to you, and you just sign it and it's done. Alright? So this is the platform, but what you can do, take the QR code, the flyers are there, we're getting it costs $99 by the way. It's cheap. Right? You get it if you put the discount code of RS15, which means roadshow 15%. So you'll get a 50% discount. if you do it within September while I'm on the road. By the way, did you see my van outside? So I'm driving this van around Australia. So it's a road show, September road show it's called. We're doing karaoke. No, we're not doing karaoke. So RS15. So you get a discount for that, all right? Now many people think, you have to do your will, sisters. You have to do it. Even if you go home tonight and just write on a piece of paper, spend the $70, get it done, put it up there, make sure it's at least there, because it guides you through some of the stuff I told you. Alright? Okay? Now, this.
When you write the will and then later update?
Yeah, so you can update it as much as you can. You can update it later on. But very few things change. So that's why in this world, we added a vault. So the vault is a secure area where you can put stuff that is transitory. Like you can put, okay, I borrowed money to this one, but when they pay you back, you remove it. You can put passwords and emails in there. So when you die, your executor has access to it. They know it. Like, everybody's on the phone with the app, right? You get it back to the cat. Now you need your dad's phone. You even know your dad's phone thing, how to get the phone? And if you can't get, if it's an Apple phone, you ain't gonna get in, right? So you need at least the PIN code of the app, the phone, then the app. How do I get in? All of those things become really, really difficult if you don't have access to these things. Even for us who was organized, I still struggle to get at the bank stuff. I still struggle. I changed the electricity account from AGL to Energy Australia just last week. It almost killed me. Right? Just because the property is in my mom's name. Even though I'm the executor, I'm on all the papers. You cannot imagine. I eventually said to Energy Australia, I can't do this anymore. I can't believe how hard you guys are making this, right? And I don't even live in the property. Then I needed to add my mom's pension card. Because the account is in my name, I'm not a pensioner yet. I needed to prove my mom's living in the house, she's the pensioner, it's a lot of work, alright? Okay, what is the best solution, sisters? For all of these worries I just gave you. This is the hardest thing to do. Raise obedient and good Muslim children. So everybody's looking, oh man, too late. So if you have a problem with this, here's your solution. Spend it all. So nobody's got. So the Australians are doing this. The parents are saying, we are selling the house, we're going on a cruise, we're doing everything, we're spending the inheritance. Right? So you can fight as much as you like, we're spending it. But in Islam, the encouragement is for us to leave our heirs in a good way, because they'll be strong Muslims, right? So there's the Islamic world. Any questions, my sisters? Yes, sister.
So if you added something incorrectly to the will, is it sufficient to write down that your betting is still under the Islamic law and under Islamic?
Once you do this, so this is the easiest way to do this. This is the easiest and cheapest way to do it, besides you writing on a piece on a what do you call it? What do you call it? Table, no, on the napkin. Yeah. Besides writing, I used to write like on a napkin. Just go and do this. Just go and do it. If you can't afford it, call me and I'll ask them if they can give it to you for free. So one of the things we're going to do here in this Islamic world, which I'm going to talk to them when I get home, inshallah, is connecting with everybody that deals with reverts. That's step one. With reverts. Right? So have a mechanism there that anybody that invests in Islam, they go straight into the Wasiyah platform, make it free, right? The code that they say revert, whatever. And the first thing they do is, I want to be buried as Muslim in the wishes. Yes.
So, should I have Wasiyah for myself and Wasiyah for my mother, then I can have one?
Pardon? Sorry?
So, should I have three separate Wasiyah? One for myself, one for my husband, and one other partners, something important for us?
No. So, you gotta have only two. One for yourself and one for your husband.
And you mentioned in the foundation, how it was to
Yeah. All right. Okay, sister.
One thing I was confused about. Sorry.
But it's hard for me to hear because of the band.
So one thing I was confused about. So if there is a shared property, is the trading law taking precedence in Islamic will, or so is it
The will will take
Islamic will is being applied after you get that half?
Yes.
That's what's happening.
So if the executor and everybody executes accordingly, no problems. It's when somebody challenges it, it becomes a problem. But now the 50%, like in my mom's case, right? My mom's in the house, she's staying there, 50% of the house is hers. The other 50 belongs to us. And 1/8 of that belongs to her.
What the executor is your husband, and he says that Islamically, 50% doesn't belong to you.
Khalas, that's it. 100% is his. That's why I'm saying clear
No,
it
but
up.
the house is in both people's names.
Doesn't matter. Islamically, from an Islamic point of view, that takes precedence. From a legal point of view, he will lose that argument. Because if it's in both names.
Only if someone challenges it.
Only if
Someone's
somebody
allowed
challenges
to
it.
challenge it.
Yeah. One of the kids challenges or you challenge it,
I'll be there.
yeah. So that's what will happen. But Islamically, you don't have any, none of that house is yours. Islamic, that's what he said. Because that's what he's saying. Even though it's in both names. Why did he put in both names when it's in Islamic case? It's only his. So that's why we're trying to tell the people they need to clarify these things. And these come in the divorce cases. We find a lot of this in the divorce cases, right? So that's a cup Australia. I'll ask you one last tricky question before I take this question.
One last thing.
All right. Now, if somebody died, if both of you die in a car accident, husband and wife died in a car accident, which will is executed first, the husband or the wife?
Husband.
Husband?
Husband.
Why? Why? Neither. Whoever died first. Think about it. The person that died first, the other person inherits from them first. And then that gets done. So let's say the husband is quite wealthy. The 1/8 of the wife now becomes part of her estate. She might have stepchildren as an example. So you can see Islam how precise it is. Now, I have two outstanding homework. Because they can actually medically identify who died first. They can, right? By time they do this stuff. So, from an executive's point of view, you need to know who died first in order to execute the two wills in the correct order. That's our process.
One question, brother. My father passed away, and I'm a member. My father and mother revert to Islam, but he didn't write a will, but he gave his portions to my other brother and sister. But he took a lawyer before he passed away with my husband and showed the property area that supposed to come to me. Before he went to Islam, I was keep on telling to my father, I don't inherit from you, father. So it makes him so sad. So he investigated about Islam and then he became a Muslim.
Listen to the story.
So now,
Listen to the story.
Now, evidences are there. The lawyer knows the area that I supposed to get. My husband was a witness. But my dad gave the deed property to my dad, but he didn't write anything. Now, the brother and sister is arguing that because daddy didn't write it for you, that he had to divide in 3. But because my husband is saying that father said it's yours, and it's father's permission, so it's yours. But my hand is saying that because sake of not making any arguments or making a better meaning, that I want to leave it to God and give it. But my husband is in the opposite side, but that is not your dad's wish. So I've done now, so it's pending now. What do we do in this situation?
So this is the story, if you heard. Just listening to how Islam executes a will made the father become Muslim. Just listening to it. That's why I'm talking about the barak here. The key part of that is that the father mentioned that this belongs to you. and he had a witness that it belongs to you, and he showed it to what belongs to you, but it's not on paper. So Islamically it belongs to him. But legally, if they fight it, she will lose because she doesn't have anything. So now it comes down to trying to maneuver everybody to come onto the page from the Islamic perspective now. Who wins? If she can't, then she basically then says, okay, I can't do anything with this, but you, brother and sister, you know this is mine, I'll take it from you on the day of judgment. So it's up to her now how she wants to manage it, because legally she doesn't have anything. Or, if her husband is a witness, but what the father said, if they go to court in what country, sister? Sri Lanka. If in Sri Lanka the court and stuff will take all of that into account, she might be able to win that. Right? I don't know. But it will cost a lot of money again to go to court. Yeah. And because of fighting between the siblings as well, right? So it's a very complex thing. It's probably worth seeking legal advice in Sri Lanka, whether you have a chance of winning that case.
Now the issue is that the property is there between me and my husband. I'm ready to let it go for sake of Allah.
Yeah, but how come it's there? But whose name is your dad's name?
The property is in my dad's name.
So you transfer it to your name?
He didn't transfer. I was the one who got postponed. No, Dad, I don't need anything. He'll sell it, he'll do something else. And she was talking about it, but he passed it. But now my husband is saying, I can't let it go because it's dad's wish that I should get that.
So I don't know if you legally can do it in Sri Lanka where he can go and get it transferred to your name. If you can, then that's what you got to do. Alright? This is the?
Is a student university loan considered
The hex? The hex?
Yeah.
What about it?
A student university loan. Your hex, yeah.
Yeah, what about it?
Does that need to be put on your bill?
The government writes it off if you die. If you die, then it's gone. So you don't need to put it in to pay it.
So you know how you said when the executors when they pass away, at what point do and then it's like by let's just say it's like the daughters and if they don't have any daughters or anything like that, they keep trying. At what point do they stop?
I don't get the question.
Like, you know how you say it's executed, like we should say if there's an executor that passed away.
The executor?
Yeah, the executor.
Okay, the executor passed away.
Yeah.
So the next executor takes over, right?
And then let's just say there's no one that they can find.
Now you have to put in your word, who's your executor?
Yeah, let's just say the executor, they've written it down, but that person's passed away. And then they have another person like
Alright, so nobody in the executive list is available. You guys are asking hard questions. I honestly don't know what happens. Like, if you have 3 executors and nobody's there. So actually what you should do is, if you get to the point where you're getting to a 3rd executor now, right, you need to update your will to make them the first and add another 2. I guess that's probably the easiest way around, right? Because when you start saying, oh, I'm at my 3rd executor in the list, the other 2 passed away, they're not available, you need to readjust it.
Yeah, hypothetically, like if they don't have family or anything like that. Like
I don't know legally what will happen. I need to check what legally happens if none of the executors are actually available that you've mentioned. So that's your question really, isn't it, right? I need to check that.